On Friday morning, it was the same miserable weather as the previous day. What you can see here is the hotel restaurant. I woke up at around 10:30 AM or so and had an early lunch at the hotel restaurant. I knew a lot of our other choir members were going to museums, so I wanted to go to one too. Here you can see a bit of the view outside the vet bus to town. In the end, I ended up going to a museum called the Noumea Museum. It was very interesting, full of the colonial and penal history of Noumea as a penal colony in the 1800s. They had both an upstairs and a basement, which I went to both of, and they also had an audio guide that you could listen to by pressing numbers as you passed exhibits. On my way back from the museum, I bumped into Paula and Georgia. We went to a few shops together. This is the town square. It was raining, so I couldn't shoot much of it. Here's the other side of the street. On the right is the entrance to the museum. And this is the entrance to the museum itself, under the shade of a canopy. Here's a little bit of inside the museum. When I got back to the hotel later that evening, I started getting ready for the concert. I hadn't really had anything to eat, so I went to that other cafe where Lynn, Leslie and I had had lunch, and had a really gross bacon crock. There was cheese on top, and I think melted cheese and bacon in the middle of 2 slices of bread. It was disgusting. But I had some fries with it too to compensate my hunger a bit, and they were okay. I was also much more pleased at how I sang at this evening's concert, and from what I can remember of what other people said to me, I think they thought we sang better tonight than we had the other night too. And then it was our Friday night concert. On Saturday morning, we'd had to leave the hotel at about 8:15 AM by bus to go to the port that would take us to Fair Amity, or Amity Island. You can see the port here. We weren't the only people travelling on the bus, there were people from other groups travelling with us as well. As you can hear, at the port they were playing music for us. When getting on the ferry that was going to take us to Amity Island, I was initially scared of stepping over the gap between the ferry and the jetty, but luckily people kindly helped me to cross it by holding on to me. Here you can see a bit of the inside of the ferry on Saturday morning. I talked to Anthony quite a lot in the morning, and we also visited the outside of the boat, which you'll see in a moment. As we can see, there are some of our people here, and lots of other people getting on. A bit later in the morning, they gave us a program about what would be happening in the day, but I think because there were so many of us, I think about 100 or so, they had to rearrange and swap around some of the activities. This is the outside of the ferry, where as you can see the water was flying out behind us. I think I was initially a bit scared of going that close to the balcony or railing of the ferry, but I managed to overcome that fear soon enough. This was us disembarking for the first time at Amity Island. As far as I can remember, after the first time we disembarked at Amity Island, we had maybe 15 to 20 minutes or so to have a bit of a walk around and explore the place. This is one of the beaches, as you can see. It's very nice. Shortly afterwards though, I think we were re-embarking the ferry again, maybe to see them feeding some fish. And this is the fish feeding, of course. These shots were taken out of the window of the ferry. You can see that they're feeding them something, and the fish are coming up to have whatever they're feeding them. This was a little while later, on the glass-bottom boat. The glass-bottom boat was much smaller than the ferry. I'd say it probably held maybe 20 to 30 people. In a moment you'll see a brief shot of the people on the glass-bottom boat, which might give you an idea of the size of the glass-bottom boat. Basically, the glass area which you can see was in the centre of the boat, and we were all sitting at a slightly higher distance, slightly raised above it. Here's someone snorkeling. Seeing all the fish beneath us was really quite spectacular. We were really miles from anywhere on the boat, with ocean stretching out before us pretty much as far as we could see. Here I think our guide was throwing some bread to the fish, which you can see them leaping up to catch.
Oh, no, no, no.
Here you can see some of the ocean around us, and a brief shot of our boat and the people in it. Here we were back on the island, having disembarked from the glass-bottom boat. One of the people working with the Fair Amity tour asked me if I'd like to have a photo taken with them. This is the photo. Next, we all had lunch. It was a buffet lunch. We had things like some couscous type things, cold meat and aubergines and mushrooms, and various kinds of salads. And then, for the main part of the meal, we had tuna steaks, coconut milk rice, prawns and slices of roast veal with mushroom and cream sauce. While we were eating lunch, we got to see some hula dancing. Unfortunately, the sound for this bit got garbled on the camcorder, but here you see someone playing with fire. Here's a bit of Gavin dancing with one of the hula dancers. Here you can see a sarong wearing demonstration. Some of the girls not from our group tried on some of the sarongs.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, right.
This is the far end of the beach we disembarked on. As you can see, it has a very nice section with rocks. And here's a snake I found whilst walking around the beach. This is possibly the same snake, although it may have been a different one wriggling in the sand. This is a photo they took of me as we were re-embarking the ferry to go back to Noumea. And this is some of the music they were playing for us when we disembarked at the port back at Noumea. In a moment you'll see some footage I took from the bus that was taking us from the port back to our hotel. To fill you in a bit on what happened in the rest of my day, after we got back from the bus back to the hotel, I wanted to change some money at the BNP automatic currency changing machine in order to purchase the photos which you saw before that they'd taken of me, and also to have dinner with Robert and Liz. But the first time I went there was a whole bunch of Australian guys who sounded and looked very threatening, and as I had the camcorder and the cassettes and all my money and traveller's checks with me, I was a bit wary of changing so much money in front of them. So I went back to the hotel room, put some of my valuables like the camcorder and the cassettes away, came back to the currency changing machine a second time, and these Australian guys were still there, but I braved the circumstances and changed my money, and luckily I got out of there unscathed. And, after my dinner with Robin and Liz, that was the end of our last whole day in Noumea.